Zoink broke Geometry Dash, and I actually mean this. He's been the #1 player for years on end, but how could the best player end up being bad for the game? Because it's predictable. The weird thing that's been happening recently is that top players, and especially Zoink, have increased the skill gap from their competition. And as you might expect, this causes weird results with attention and focus within the community. The competitive scene of GD has become less exciting because people at the top have become so dominant. The results have become increasingly more predictable. Zoink is only the case study here, not necessarily the villain. And an interesting thing that's been happening recently is that the perspective has been changed from the audience. We don't watch stories anymore. We're watching top players cruising in their comfort zone, trying to become community-wide celebrities and figures rather than trying to push the game past its limits. Here's another problem with the skill gap. It keeps increasing. Back in the day, it existed with Space UK. He was the leading edge of the game's skill, and he ended up being a hacker. Now think of how ridiculously far ahead Zoink and Pop-Off are, but they're not even cheating. But media dominance exists too. A lot of the strength of the community is held in the hands of the top players. If none of them are striving to beat levels out of their skill, they'll only act as overshadowing monarchs to the other aspiring players who try. They tend to set the scene for the overarching community, and people often mentally end up like them from seeing them as the game's leaders for a long time. The best players end up influencing what everybody believes is possible and worth attempting. And sure, they deserve to feel some kind of enjoyment from the work they've put in, but it is a bit disappointing from the perspective of the audience. This is why we watch grief streams, because we genuinely don't know if Doggy has what it takes to beat it. Zoink's been beating top 5 to 20 levels for months now, with little evidence of something beyond that. He even beat Society in a few weeks, so why isn't he testing himself? He's an amazing player, but whatever his reasons are, he doesn't give the audience much evidence that he wants to explore the limits of the game. This ends up imposing the idea that the top 1 throne is completely untouchable. Why should you try if the best player in the world doesn't even have to? Only a few players have really been pushing themselves recently. For example. And about how we're not watching stories anymore. From my recent video about going out of your comfort zone, a lot of top players don't do this because they feel like they've worked hard enough that they should be allowed to relax, even though the game's skill ceiling is effectively infinite. It should be like watching a sport. The outcome should be undetermined. Even the greatest athletes can lose. Although people would still watch LeBron play against college players, it would be for entertainment only, with no emotional involvement. With real stories, your emotions, judgment, time, and ego are all on the line because you're gambling it for the answer. Imagine Doggy actually drops grief. That would suck for everybody because we were counting on it happening. The experience has shifted and is no longer a tense story. And grief is a perfect example, because we don't know when it'll end. No wonder when you see him get to griefer, you drop everything you're doing and watch, like it's that scene in Cars. Doggy's been verifying grief for 2 years. Imagine the difficulty of a level that Zoink could beat after 2 years of playing it. Remember, he beat Society in only a couple of weeks, and that's close to grief's difficulty. Heliopolis is on hold, and it feels inevitable that he'll be the first victor of grief. He's even playing Tung Tung Sa Hercules and reacting to random videos. Whatever he's doing, his recent choices don't give the audience much evidence that he's trying to discover the upper limit of his ability. You've probably been seeing more reaction videos recently too. You might have seen overview videos, maybe news. And it's not their fault that big creators are covering everything in the niche. They're allowed to, they have free will. But it's strange how once people realize they can make videos on other people's videos, all of a sudden they make a separate reaction channel. But with the new Mr. Bob and B News thing, I honestly don't really know what to think of it.
For this news, and I'm sorry, so I am very curious to where you talked about this. I am Mr. Bob.
People are more likely to watch it over other news channels because they're the most famous and their opinions appear more valid because of their skill. Also, they react to so many other people's videos, including mine about Quantus, that every time somebody uploads an interesting idea, the views are split between the creators rather than the celebrity working to give the smaller creators exposure. And sometimes this can be beneficial as a way of giving support to smaller creators, but it doesn't always end up that way. Their existing fame gives them an enormous distribution advantage, allowing them to occupy spaces that used to belong to smaller creators. Top players dominate the game, but also the media because their content is backed by their skill as a source of credibility. This is unusual compared to most forms of media. Usually you don't have to be good at something, you just have to be entertaining. But here, if you're good as well, your influence is exponentially greater. There's a positive feedback loop where the already popular creators get even more popular because they just get to post and post and post. Imagine Zoink announced he was verifying Eternus. Not another top 25. Not another top 10, reaction content, or a joke level. A level that we don't know if he can beat. Imagine how much his concurrent viewers would skyrocket. This is why so many people hate the idea of him verifying Artemis 13. It's not a bad level objectively, but the backlash seems to be from the fact that Zoink is the one verifying it. In about 2 weeks it'll be verified and then forgotten. Zoink will gain some views, and we know that he'll just expand his slop horizons. We don't want to see history repeat itself over and over and over. Zoink didn't break Geometry Dash because he was too good, but because he shattered the competitive narrative and made this story so predictable that his dominance disproportionately overshadowed the rest of the community. And dominance removes uncertainty. But that's not what we want from Geometry Dash. I don't want the best players to stop being the best. I want them to make us wonder what the best actually is.